Intelligence and Judiciary Committees, and our correspondents and specialists are also standing by. First, let's go to our Justice correspondent, Jessica Schneider. Jessica, Special Counsel Robert Mueller, he's on Capitol Hill as we speak.
That's right. Mueller is meeting right now with key members of the House Intelligence Committee, Mike Conaway, who's leading the Russia probe, and Adam Schiff, the committee's ranking Democrat. Mueller will also be briefing leaders of the Senate Judiciary Committee tomorrow, and all of this is part of an effort to make sure these multiple investigations aren't overlapping or undermining each other as the White House continues to deflect key questions. Tonight, White House spokesman Sean Spicer still won't say if tapes of the president's conversations with former FBI Director James Comey exist, but he continues to promise the president himself will answer the question.
The president has said that he will make an announcement on this. I expect it this week. And so when he's ready to make that announcement, we'll let you know.
The House Intelligence Committee has demanded any tapes by Friday, and the Senate Intelligence Committee is pledging to follow the money as part of its probe. Committee members just got word they'll get access to data from the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Unit as part of their investigation into possible collusion or financial ties between the Trump campaign and Russia.
I have long felt that the follow the money questions are right at the heart of our work in terms of telling the American people what has happened our democratic institutions.
Michael Flynn.
Meanwhile, Michael Flynn is facing even more fire from Congress. A pair of top House Democrats now digging into whether Flynn may have misled officials by omitting a trip to the Middle East from his security clearance form, where he worked to secure an energy deal between Russia and Saudi Arabia in the summer of 2015. House Democrats are demanding documents from Flynn about that trip and another one in October 2015, which he disclosed but left out significant details. Senate Judiciary Committee member Sheldon Whitehouse, in an interview with Wolf, speculated Flynn's silence so far means there could be a deal in the works.
All the signals are suggesting that he's already cooperating with the FBI and may have been for some time.
It's a possibility fired FBI Director James Comey alluded to during his testimony June 8th.
Would closing out the Flynn investigation have impeded the overall Russian investigation?
No. Well, unlikely, except to the extent there's always a possibility if you have a criminal case against someone and you bring in and squeeze them, you flip them, and they give you information about something else.
But law enforcement sources have not indicated if Flynn is cooperating or not. House investigators don't know precisely when Flynn traveled to the Middle East, but they cite a discrepancy between this June 10, 2015 testimony he gave to the Foreign Affairs Committee.
I just came from a trip, fairly extensive trip to the Middle East. And this was one of the big issues that came up.
And the fact that he listed an August 2015 start date on the financial disclosure form he submitted after he was fired as National Security Advisor. Flynn's attorney declined to comment. Reuters is reporting the FBI is also looking at Flynn's business partner, Bijan Kian, in its inquiry of whether payments from foreign clients to Flynn's consulting company were lawful. Kian played a central role in Flynn's contract with a company controlled by a Turkish businessman that Flynn initially failed to disclose. It's not clear whether Kian is a target of the criminal investigation or if federal agents are just trying to build a better understanding of how Flynn's company operated.
What do you want to get out of Bob Mueller tomorrow when you meet?
Oh, I'm not going to go into it.
Special Counsel Robert Mueller is expected to meet with senior members of the Senate Judiciary Committee and others on the Hill this week to make sure there are no conflicts between his investigation and their own probes. And while questions continue to linger as to whether there were recordings of the conversations between James Comey and President Trump inside the White House, CNN today received a response from the administration's Office of Management and Budget saying it has no records of any installation or production of any recording devices inside the White House. CNN has previously reached out to other agencies, all of whom so far say they have no records either. But of course, we are still waiting on official word from the White House.
Yeah, Sean Spicer says it could happen this week. We'll get the final answer whether or not there are those recordings. Jessica Schneider, thanks very, very much. We saw the White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer brief reporters on camera today, something he hasn't done in more than a week. Let's go to our senior White House correspondent, Jeff Zeleny. Jeff, Spicer was asked about the president's views on Russia's election meddling during the presidential campaign last year. We didn't get a satisfactory answer.
Well, if he was asked about that, and that is something that Republicans and Democrats and the entire U.S. intelligence community here in Washington agree on, that Russia did interfere in the election. We've heard it time and time again in those hearings on Capitol Hill. We didn't hear it today in the White House briefing room. Let's watch.
I have not sat down and talked to him about that specific thing. Obviously, we've been dealing with a lot of other issues today. I'd be glad to touch base.
Generally speaking, I mean, this conversation about Russian interference in our elections, there's 16 intelligence agencies that say that they did. The former FBI director said that without a doubt the Russians interfered.
I understand. I've seen the reports.
Does the president share those views?
I've not sat down and asked him about a specific reaction to him, so I'd be glad to touch base and get back to you.
So it's this reluctance over and over, some 7 months after the election, that has confounded Republicans, sort of given ammunition to Democrats, and really kept this investigation alive in the sense that the president is one of the few people, Wolf, here in Washington who has not often agreed to the fact that Russia did interfere in the election.
Yeah, pretty amazing when you think about it. The president also posted a late tweet today about China's efforts involving North Korea. Tell us about that.
Well, if he did indeed, of course, this is in a response to the very sad story of the University of Virginia student who died yesterday. And the president talked about this earlier in the Oval Office. He seemed to imply that the Obama administration had some blame here because the student was under captivity by the North Koreans for some 17 months or so. But he sent out a tweet shortly after the briefing. It said this. He said, while I greatly appreciate the efforts of President Xi and China to help with North Korea, it has not worked out. At least I know China tried. Now, Wolf, it's unclear exactly what the president means by this. He was hoping that President Xi would help with relations with North Korea and the regime there, but that didn't happen here. It's unclear if he's stating the new policy here or simply saying that this one-off didn't work, but it certainly raised a lot of eyebrows talking about this and about President Xi.
He was also, Spicer was also asked about the Senate version of the Republican health care bill, which remains secret.
He was indeed, Wolf, and this is something that the White House wants to get done. Of course, they want to get some type of a win on the boards here, but this is one of the most secret things in all of Washington. Republicans have complained about this bill being written in secrecy. Spicer was asked today if the president knows what's in the bill.
I don't know that. I know that there was some chatter today. I know the president has been on the phone extensively with the leader and with key senators, so I don't know if he's seen the legislation or not, but I know that they've been working extremely hard, and the president has been giving his input and his ideas, feedback to them, and he's very excited about where this thing is headed.
Do you know if anyone on the staff has seen the draft of the bill?
I don't.
So, well, this is something friendly that the White House is just not simply directly involved in. They have agreed to allow Senate Republicans and top Senate Republicans to sort of work this out, but time is running short here. But Mitch McConnell and other Senate Republican leaders still say they can have a vote before that July 4th recess, Wolf. But again, that has to happen before the end of next week, and it has to be scored by the Congressional Budget Office. That, too, has not yet happened.
Yeah, they got to move quickly on this. All right, Jeff, thank you very much. Jeff Zeleny over at the White House. Let's turn back to the breaking news in the Russia investigation. We're joined by Congressman Eric Swalwell. He's a Democrat on the House Intelligence and Judiciary Committees. Congressman, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me back, Wolf.
All right, so CNN has learned that the special counsel, Robert Mueller, he's meeting with the leaders of your House Intelligence Committee, I believe, right now. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, Wolf, I can't go into any specifics on, when meetings are occurring. I can tell you that we want to make sure that the FBI, through the special counsel cooperation, is able to make progress again on this investigation. We want to make sure that if there are resources that they need to conduct this investigation, that they can do so. And we want to just have an understanding of what the timeline is. We don't want to interfere in any way. We want to make sure that they are able to report back to the American people whether any U.S. persons worked with Russia or whether that did not occur.
Yeah, he's involved in Mueller in a criminal investigation. You guys are looking at oversight in the House and Senate. The ranking member of your Intelligence Committee, Democrat Adam Schiff, he wants your committee to look into possible obstruction of justice. Has your committee come to a final agreement with Special Counsel Robert Mueller on this? Are you going to pursue that?
We should pursue that. I support Ranking Member Schiff's belief in that. You know, the obstruction of justice concerns stem out of the Russia investigation from the president's own mouth. And so I'll leave it at that, Wolf. I hope we can find consensus with the Republicans, because as you mentioned, our task right now is to report to the American people how this attack occurred, whether any U.S. persons were involved, and then make reforms so that we never find ourselves in a position like this again.
And learn lessons learned from all of this, as you say, to make sure it doesn't happen again. The Treasury Department is providing documents from its Financial Crimes Unit to the Senate Intelligence Committee. Will your House committee be requesting those same documents?
Well, you know, first, I think this just shows why we should have had a joint Senate-House intelligence investigation to avoid redundancies, and you know, you've certainly seen those. That's something that Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan opposed. We want to review all relevant documents, talk to all relevant witnesses, and do it swiftly, because as I said, Wolf, it's not just Russia who we're afraid of could do this again. Other countries with similar capabilities will see this as an opportunity. But understanding what the financial relationships were as this attack took place will be very, very illuminative for us.
Your committee, as you know, has set Friday, this coming Friday, as the deadline for the White House to provide any recordings it may have of President Trump's conversations with former FBI Director James Comey. Have you received any response at all from the White House counsel, Don McCann, or anyone else at the White House on this request?
I'm not aware of them responding to us, and you know, that was kind of the easy way to approach this, hoping that they would want to cooperate because it was the president who suggested that they exist. If that does not happen, then one other option we have would be to subpoena the records, and I hope that that's the action we take if the White House is not going to cooperate with that request.
Do you believe those recordings exist?
Well, you know, honestly, there's two bad outcomes. Either the president lied about recordings being in place just to intimidate James Comey, who came forward and testified anyway, not knowing himself, or he secretly recorded the FBI director without his knowledge. I don't think either of them make the president look well.
You're also trying to get by Friday the Comey memos on Comey's conversations with the president. I assume you're going to get those, right? And if you are, what are the most important elements you need to review?
Yeah, we hope we also get those. Again, well, we don't want to get in the way of what Robert Mueller is doing. So if they're going to report back that would impede their investigation, then I don't want us to get in the way of that. What I hope they tell us is just whether they were contemporaneous, meaning did James Comey record these as he had different concerns, maybe also inform us as to other people he talked to. So if you have what his state of mind was, you could corroborate what he suggested happened, and then also, you know, what was the president's conduct that was so concerning to him, from making the Flynn investigation go away to wanting to shut down the Russia investigation, and also intent of the president. You know, if it's true that the president asked people to leave the room, that shows what the president was doing, contrary to, you know, Paul Ryan and others who have said, well, he's new at this, he doesn't necessarily know. When you clear a room, you know what you're doing.
But was that first memo that he wrote following that first meeting, when he went into his car and he started writing up details that he could remember, presumably because he didn't necessarily believe the president, is that the one you want to see the most?
We want to see all of them, but that was really that's chapter 1, I guess, in the memos, and that would probably give us a good sense of where this went for the director and how he viewed the president thereafter. But yes, I think all of them would be helpful for our investigation.
And they're not classified, right? He said they weren't classified, so I don't understand, why wouldn't they be made available to you?
They should be made available to us, and I don't believe they're classified from what I have heard. But again, if Special Counsel Mueller says that for other reasons that they would affect his investigation, then that's something that we should consider. We don't have to accept it, but I think we should at least show the respect of considering it if that is a reason given.
Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island, he's a member of the Judiciary Committee. He believes General Flynn, Michael Flynn, who was fired as the president's national security advisor, is now cooperating with the FBI. Based on what you've seen, Congressman, do you agree?
I don't know, Wolf. I can't say. Certainly, just as a former prosecutor, I can tell you that when you have cooperative witnesses whose testimony can otherwise be corroborated, that always helps you go farther in your investigation. But I can't speak to General Flynn's cooperation.
All right, stand by.